Good morning and welcome to The Big Issue. My name is Godfred Akoto-Boafo. Yes, I know that is not the name you were expecting, but I am the man in the chair. It has been a truly eventful week in Ghana, and my guest and I will try to break these events down for you on the program today. What were these events? A by-election at Ayawaso West Wuogon to replace the late former MP Chamatia Jako turned chaotic, with gunfire and fisticuffs, leaving several people injured. Questions have been asked about the presence of masked individuals around the electoral process who have since been claimed by the national security apparatus and their role in the events around La Baulishi and the home of the NDC's candidate. We will also look at the circumstances that led to the exchange between a member of parliament and these masked men. Now, several organizations have issued statements to criticize the events that unfolded there, even though the Electoral Commission says the process was free and fair. On the show today, we will explore the reactions to these events from various parts of society and ask if this is a foreshadow of the country's electoral future or a one-off security operation gone awry. Also on The Big Issue today, we will look at the latest twist in the killing of the MPP chairman of the Upper East Region, Adams Mahama, after the government announced the arrest in Côte d'Ivoire of another suspect, Asapke Alande, and the discontinuation of the process in court against Gregory Afoko. The government issued a nolle prosequi, and a new process has begun. Gregory Afoko spoke to City News' Fred Jabano, and we'll be playing you excerpts of that audio later on in the show. We will also be discussing the visa restrictions that have been imposed by the United States on certain categories of Ghanaian citizens based on Ghana's inability to comply with a request to accept over 7,000 deportees from the United States of America. Is it a case of big boy bullying small boy, or does Ghana really have a point and must stick to its ground? All coming up on The Big Issue on 97.3 City FM and also on City TV. For those of you who are watching us on Facebook, you can leave your comments. Those who want to reach us on Twitter on 97.3 City FM or on my own Twitter handle at eSportsman, your comments are always welcome. I'll be doing this show with a lot of very dignified people as usual. Kojo Pumpunya Asante will be here with me. He's the Director of Advocacy and Policy Engagement at the CDD. Mr. Asante, good morning. Good morning. I'll be having this discussion with him. Sidney Kesley-Hereford, a member of Occupy Ghana, will also be with us. He's one of our regulars. Since I am new on the show today, I've ordered a special package of buffruit for Sydney, just so that I worm my way into the show this morning. Franklin Kujo will also be joining us. He's the president of Imani Africa. Nick Papo Samoado, a private legal practitioner, a member of the NDC, will be in the studio with us. And also Pius Enam Hajide, the deputy minister of information, will also be here to add clarity to what we are doing. So it's a packed show on 97.3 City FM. It's The Big Issue. My name is Godfred Akoto-Boafo. So you're welcome back to The Big Issue. Now, the Ayawaso West Wuogon by-election, which was held last Thursday, was marred by violence which took place around some of the polling stations. Some national security operatives allegedly fired gunshots at the La Baulishi area, injuring about 6 people believed to be NDC supporters. Now, the NDC subsequently opted out of the race, claiming they took the decision to forestall further attacks on their members. Now, here is a wrap-up of the events that occurred that day.
The unusual heavy security, including supposed operatives from national security at the La Baulishi Presby Center, was enough to have made the center an interest point in the by-election. For many, their presence was intimidating, if not unnecessary. This was a sharp contrast from observations at other polling stations with no more than 3 security personnel each. The posture of the alleged security personnel did not suggest any actions towards the election as they moved away from the polling center. But about 2 hours after voting had started at Baulishi School, Gunshots were heard from behind the polling center, where the strange-looking security men had run to. It was followed up with a confrontation between the alleged security operatives and some sympathizers of the NDC. These sympathizers alleged that the supposed security personnel had shot at a couple of their colleagues, one that did not go down with them. These furious sympathizers poured their outrage at what they believed was a deliberate attempt to intimidate them.
They are party members, and we came to the Aspirants House. This Aspirants House, and we are here. We organize ourselves to go and monitor the voting as how they call it. So we are here when they came with black and this thing. Then they started shooting. Back, one shit. Everybody sleep down. Go, move. Then they shoot our people.
Maybe the police people who came to come and stop them.
We get
supporting them right now. Okay, yes. If we call police to come and stop them, the police radar is supporting them. You understand? And the police were here before they started to throw the fire. They are here. Yes. We call police to come and stop them. The police people rather backing them, supporting them. Because they saw the police people around, they started to fire, shooting like bullet for here. The police cannot stop them.
Starting fighting with us, shooting our people. Some of the guy, they breaking leg into pieces, the bones, everything are there. And now they are claiming that it's not a bullet. And we have a bullet. Show, how is the guy? Yeah, you see the bullet.
The invisible forces who have come here to jump the wall and kill 3 people, shot 3 people. I'm telling you, they will not go scot-free. What government changes, they will see the police which is doing politics, the Ghana police which is doing politics. They should be very, very careful.
But the shooting that is going on there in somebody's private residence. We can't also go to MPP's president right now and cause commotion.
That's how we went there.
What is all this?
That's how we went there.
Is it war? Ordinary by-election?
Following the continuous unrest caused by the situation, the NDC's leadership hierarchy, in consultation with the parliamentary candidate, pulled out of the election.
The candidate has not been able to move out of his residence. His residence was attacked. Our agents and some of our boys have been shot at. I have just returned from the Legon hospital where 6 of our boys who are party agents and some of them accredited observers were shot at. Some of them have broken bones. Some of them are seriously injured. And as I speak to you now, they are preparing to move 2 of the injured persons to the 37 military hospital. That should tell you the extent of the damage. We have observed that in elections like this, the Ghana Police Service are supposed to deploy and provide security. Contrary to that, we have seen people in attire of national security, almost 10 at every polling station. And what they are doing, shooting indiscriminately, attacking people and intimidating people. Nobody has been killed. Please, you cannot move out. We have weighed the situation. Some of the people, including our sitting member of parliament, Honorable Sam George, has been attacked. There is serious intimidation. And as a party, we believe in rule of law. We have been in by-elections before, and we don't think that we are in a war zone. But this by-election has been turned into a war zone. We are peaceful, loving people, and we are law-abiding party. We cannot subject any of our members to danger because of elections. In the circumstances, I have conferred with the parliamentary candidate and the leadership of the NDC. We have no option than to withdraw from the ongoing exercise. We are therefore using this opportunity to direct all party agents at various polling stations to withdraw and report at the Center for Conflict Resolution, CENCO, which is at yes, we want them to report there for further directives. The NDC has officially withdrawn from the by-election for security reasons, intimidation by invisible forces who have been given national security uniforms and who are intimidating, shooting, and maiming people. That is the position that we have taken. And we have the support of our parliamentary candidate who thinks that his own life is not safe and cannot even move out of his house. If the parliamentary candidate cannot move out of his house, then we see no reason why anybody at all should kill himself because of this by-election. The NDC has officially withdrawn from the by-election.
But this did not deter the EC from continuing with the exercise.
I was on my rounds far away from here when I had a call that an incident has happened. So I had no choice than to rush here. When I came, the crowd here was thick. And then I also realized that security presence here too is massive. The military also followed up. So voting stopped temporarily, after which it has resumed. And even though the military presence here was too high, they have withdrawn some of the men away. So I think calm has now been restored, and the voters are trooping in to cast their vote. Actually, we made an arrangement to ensure that there will be security presence every polling station, but not to this magnitude. And had not been the incident of the gunshot, I don't think we will see such a heavy security presence here. Withdrawal of party agents does not invalidate what the EC is doing. They are here for transparency's sake. We involve the political parties for them to be part of every process. But if a party decides not to be part of a process, EC still goes ahead. And we ensure, either party agents are there or not, we ensure that we do the work as expected in a professional, in a much ethical manner.
For the NPP, the NDC is to blame for the chaos.
City that influenced the decision to boycott the election. And I think that if they had been a bit moderate, if they had been a bit cautious, they wouldn't have found themselves in this abysmal behavior. This is the first test of a newly elected officers of a party, and they disappointed their people, because even the altercation that happened did not even happen at the polling station. It happened way behind a polling station. So what occasioned the boycott?
But the justification given by the national chairman of the NDC is that if they continue the process, there might be similar thing that will mar the entire election. So the best decision for them was to pull out of the race.
Is he new in this country? Why didn't they boycott the Akwetia by-elections? Why didn't they boycott Etiwa by-election? Why didn't they boycott Chiripone by-election? Why didn't they boycott all the elections that they visited mayhem on the people of the New Patriotic Party? What is different from this? I don't think that it is enough justification, and that if you have national officers who take decision based on falsity, who take decision based on just emotions, we are heading towards a disastrous political terrain in our country, because they will obviously disappoint their people.
From the projections on the board, it looks as if MPP is likely to retain the seat. Is that the same?
Oh yes, that is it. That's not even what we are looking at, because as for retaining the seat, it's a must. You understand? We are looking at increasing our percentage of votes cast, and that's exactly what we are seeing. And you can see clearly that there's no constituency, there's no polling station that the NDC won. You see, the irony of the whole thing is that the NDC announced that they've boycotted the election, but they are still there. Some of them were polling there. As late as 4 p.m., Hanabisu was at Legon polling station as a polling agent. You understand? We met national organizer of the NDC, and he said that they are the ones who ran the party and not the national chairman, and that they've not boycotted the election. So that boycott was just a facade to just cover up for their ineffective campaign and their inefficient way of running their party. I think that it is a sad episode.
11 persons were wounded as a result of the chaos, while the Labaoleshi Presbyterian polling station was nearly marred by the incident. The atmosphere was calm on other polling centers.
Now, meanwhile, the Minister of State in charge of National Security, Brian Achampong, has clarified that his outfit did indeed deploy the security personnel seen at polling stations during the Ayawaso West Wuogon by-election. He also indicated that they will investigate the violence that occurred on the day. Brian Achampong, who is also the MP for Abetifi, spoke on the City Breakfast Show.
The assessment that we received prior to the election informed us to deploy security men in certain areas. That was unusual. But they were there not to intimidate. I don't understand why 10, 20, 30 police people at a police station or a polling station will be called intimidating. We deployed to protect the citizenry. And that was done with all the information, intelligence information and security report that we had received. So I don't understand why Kodio will say that the men that we had deployed were intimidating. We will engage Kodio to find out what they saw.
But were these security people you deployed, were they uniformed?
We deploy all kinds of security forces in operations depending on the information that we have. There were some uniformed and some plainclothes security operatives. It happens all the time.
So did this include people who were wearing masks?
Absolutely. You saw them there. They were not hiding. They were people, security men. You see, when we get intelligence, we need to prepare for it. When we get information, we need to prepare for the intelligence that we have received. And we deployed men. They are with us, and some of them had masks. It's not that they came from somewhere. They were just engaged and they were part of the setup that we deployed yesterday.
So was it possible for people to identify and know who they were? For example, were they wearing specific attire that had insignia to show that they were working for the state?
Then you just asked me, and I answered. Some of them had police uniforms, some of them had immigration uniforms, some of them had prisons uniforms, some of them had special gear on, and some of them were plain clothes. We deployed a mix of these forces or service personnel, depending on the information that we have for a particular polling station.
So was this known to the police that all these groups will be working with them on the ground?
There was a security task force for that particular election. It was known to them.
Journalists interviewed the director of operations on the ground when the confusion at the candidate's house occurred, DCOP Alex Mensah, who said he did not know who the masked personnel were and he did not deploy any masked personnel to be part of yesterday's election.
Bernard, have you listened to that tape?
I've played it on air more than 3 times. I can play it again.
The DCOP never said that. He never said that. The commissioner arrived at a scene and immediately he landed there. They put a microphone to him and said that, who are these people wearing this uniform? He said, I just got here. I don't know who these people that you're talking about. That is what happened.
Well, I can play the voice because he said they asked him many times whether he knew who the masked people were, and he said he didn't know them and he hadn't deployed any masked person.
I have spoken with him. I have spoken with those on the ground. All the police people. You've seen a video. You've seen a video of the incident of the theater. You've seen a video of it. Does it suggest to you that the people that were there were not known to the security people there? Warning shots were fired. That one I can confirm. That warning shots were fired. I can confirm to you that 6 people were injured. 9 people were arrested and sent to the East Legon police station. from the house that you are talking about.
So you're saying that this was standard security procedure. I am asking about men in masks. That's my question, because I am not a security expert to know the comparison between one deployment and another. But what I am telling you is about the masks. So my question is that, have there been masked security as part of any other by-election apart from this one?
Bernard, when you say masked security, what does it mean?
A security man whose face we cannot see wearing a mask. No, I'm saying that
deployment is based on information that you receive. And so you deploy in preparedness for the information that you have. Whether they are in masks, they are in slippers, they are in shalawati, they are in a plain clothes, doesn't matter. You need to protect the public.
Well, did they see?
No, I don't know. Making an issue of security men wearing masks.
Yes, I can explain why that question is legitimate. Because what I know is that for elections, for security to be deployed, they must be identifiable. Name tags are part of what they are supposed to have. So if you can't, so most of these people,
it is not the case.
It is not the case that security should have name tags.
I'm saying that there are some security people that have name tags. Are you saying that if a CID person is working, a plainclothes security man is working, they should have name tags?
Well, but CID
investigating, they should have name tags.
But CID and investigators don't hold weapons in an election situation.
But I'm saying that
CID people don't even wear uniform.
Conclusion: you have information, you deploy for the information that you have.
You see, that's why I need clarity from you.
Bernard, hold on. If we had information, for example, and just as an example, if we had information that there will be, let's say, just an example, a chemical attack, we will stop the election, the security men will have masks, will have gas masks. So I'm saying you deploy for the information that you have.
Now, as part of all these things, the organizer of the election, the Electoral Commission, has described some of the responses from civil society organizations, especially one from CODEO, as narrow and selective. Now, CODEO, in an earlier statement, condemned the security arrangements during the by-election, referring to it as uncoordinated. But at a press conference, chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Madam Jean Mensah, said their evaluation was weak.
President Akufo-Addo, Occupy Ghana, IDEC, UNDP and other organizations, as well as individuals, have condemned the disturbances that occurred in the just ended by-elections in the Ayawaso West Wuogon constituency. The incident, which led to some injuries, also compelled the opposition National Democratic Congress, NDC, to withdraw from the contest. But addressing the media today, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Mrs. Jean Mensah, noted that the elections was peacefully conducted. She urged the public to delink the violence from the activities of the EC because the incident happened outside their jurisdiction.
We had our police, immigration officers and fire officials. And we had officers on the field, we had our monitors on the field, and we are not informed, we have not been informed of any acts of intimidation. Of course, it is true that there was some alleged violence in a residence close to a polling station, close to one of our polling stations. And that's why I mentioned that so long as it is not within our polling station, we don't have authority over it. I don't believe that the Electoral Commission has become the policeman of the constituency. Therefore, anything that happens in any home should be policed and monitored by the Electoral Commission. I think it's important for all Ghanaians to understand that the alleged acts of violence, and we've seen it on video as well, happened in a private residence close to the polling station. It did not happen at the polling station. It did not involve officials of the EC. Neither did it involve the police that we had employed and deployed to that particular polling station. Granted that it frightened, of course, it's natural that with the violence, it will frighten people and some residents and scare people away. So I am informed reliably that for about 40 minutes, voting came to a halt and then proceeded. But it is important that it did not happen, it did not involve any of our officers, It did not happen at our polling station, and it did not involve the policemen that we had deployed and the security agents that we had deployed to our polling station. And that is why I said that we disassociate ourselves from attempts to link us to that violence.
Reacting to a report by the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers suggesting that the by-elections was largely characterized by ill-prepared and intimidating security arrangements, the EC chair described the report as narrow and inaccurate.
I'm sure that we've worked with CODEO for many years, and I believe that they've covered many an election. What we are saying is that election observers have a checklist. They have a broad, you go to the poll, what are the expectations? I believe that if we went to the poll and polling started at 9, it would have been reported. Therefore, if you go to the poll and the poll has been set up at 6:40 and it starts at 7, it should be reported. Your register, the conduct of voters, the conduct of the police, the declaration of results, it gives you a broad overview from the start to the finish. And although this is a preliminary report, you expect that you take the poll, you take the report from the start of the poll to the end of the poll, and also report on any incidents that occur. And so whilst we did not, we are not against CDD reporting or CODEO reporting the acts of violence that occurred in the private residence of the candidate, we believe that they would have done the good people of this country great service if they had reported, given a full view of how the polls were conducted.
What would be your description of their report? How would you describe it?
It's narrow because it only centered on the acts of violence.
Speaking on threats by some political actors to counter any attack on their members during elections, Mrs. Jean Mensah said the various political parties should blame themselves for fomenting trouble during elections and not the EC. She posed a question to the political parties.
Now who caused them? Now who caused them? And I think you have to help to educate the citizenry, because it seems as if we mentioned that there's an attempt to link the commission with violence. The question we should be asking ourselves, those complaining the most, now who caused them? It's not the ordinary resident going to vote, or the ordinary man or woman driving in their car or walking on the street. We know that the violence stems from the political parties. And I think it's all up to all of us, civil society, the media, the commission, supporters of the political parties, to call their leaders to order. Because now who caused them? I mean, what happened yesterday was not caused by the Electoral Commission, nor was it caused by the media. So you need to be asking the right people the questions, not us. But we are prepared. I mean, we work with the security agencies. Ours is to ensure that elections are credible.
Despite pockets of violence in yesterday's by-elections at the Ayawaso West Wuogon constituency, the EC still maintains that the elections was peaceful, free and fair. The Electoral Commission has also called on election observers to be holistic in their analysis rather than being selective in analyzing the outcome of elections. Reporting from the EC headquarters here in Accra, I am Anas Seidu for City News.
So that is the overview of all the incidents that happened at the Ayawaso West Wuogon by-election. And come to think of it, everybody has forgotten who won the results. The NPP candidate won that particular election, but that seems to have been swept under the carpet based on all the things that happened there. Let me reintroduce my guest again. Today I will be speaking to Kojo Pumpunia Asante, who is the Director of Advocacy and Policy Engagement at the CDD. He's already here. Franklin Kujo, President of Imani Africa. I haven't seen Franklin in a long time. He's not been visiting me. He's not been asking about me. You've just been having conversations with Fred behind my back. But no worries.
Where's
Franklin, welcome.
Fruit?
The bullfruit is on the way. It will be here soon. Don't worry. And also here with us is the Honorable Deputy Minister of Information, Pius Enam Hajide, another of my good friends who has abandoned me. But as circumstances will have it, he's on my left. Frank. Honorable, good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
It's good to see you.
At least I keep up on Facebook.
Yes.
Unlike
Mr. Kujo, yes, Mr. Kujo doesn't mind.
I keep the friendship going, at least on Facebook.
But let me start with you, Mr. Asante. This was supposed to be an exercise that deepened Ghana's democratic credentials. Very good country for running elections, successful record of doing so. Has this put a dent in it? Or overall, because some say this was an isolated incident, we had 137 police stations, you had an incident at one area, we can write this off?
No, I don't think we can write it off. And I mean, I want to use the opportunity to sort of explain. There's a lot of commentary that has happened since Kodeo, for example, issued a report. But I think we need to pay attention to what Kodeo is saying. First of all, there are two main things that happened in the last in the by-election, which is of note. So, the heavy security deployment was a real concern. I mean, Ayawaso West Wuogon is not a constituency that will be characterized as a hotspot, for example, right? But of course, we understand that, security had intelligence that some people were massing up or whatever it is, and they deployed. At the end of it, it was counterproductive. Because in most of the polling stations, when you go there, sometimes you have 5. In some places, we counted 13 security officers in different immigration, mix of all of those things. But it created an atmosphere of fear. Right? And you can see the turnout. And what worsened it was, of course, the incident at the beginning, just about 2 hours in when the incident happened. And of course, if you are listening to it, nobody is going to go and say, I'm going to go and vote. The turnout was 19.23%.
Yes, if we look at the numbers on the register, we have a little over 88,000. Yeah. 18,000 plus people voted. Yeah.
No, it definitely impacted. Because at some place, one of our observers who was at the polling station close to the incident that happened, when the shots started coming, people started running away from the polling station. You understand? So when we say that the incident, and we made a clear statement that the incident happened somewhere, but it affected people, and I think the Electoral Commission chair herself stated that for 45 minutes they had to suspend voting, and then calm was restored. In other places, as I said, so that was one incident that disrupted the voting there. Most of the other places, it was calm. But you had a lot of security personnel, and then you have these national security personnel people coming in almost every 10 minutes, 20 minutes, some of them masked. And if you are in a polling station like that, you feel like there's something going to happen. All right? So it affected the voting process. And that is the point that we were making. And the point was not about the Electoral Commission, because the Electoral Commission did its work. Its officers were there. They started on time. Voting was proceeding. Security deployment has to do with the Election Security Task Force or the security apparatus. They are the ones that coordinate with the Electoral Commission to do that. So a lot of the issues we raised about coordination, about reviewing some of the protocols, because we found in examples when the security people come in, some of them did not have a good idea of the protocols around the cordon area. So they come and they want to come in, just walk in, and then the security people who are there are saying, who are you? And they might show their tag. So, but do you have an ID? So no, I have a tag. So it shows that there's coordination lacking, that when you're going to do some of these things, you have to, rope people in so that they know how to work together at the polling station. So those were the concerns that we're raising, that we need to learn from it, because it's obvious that one of the things that triggered this was the whole activity of vigilantism. If you're going to have triple, double of that in a 2020 election, you need to look at how you're going to deal with it. Otherwise, you endanger people at the polling station, you put people off, and you might not achieve your objective, which is to ensure that the place is peaceful, people can go out and vote. You actually get the kind of turnout that we got at this by-election. And that is really the substance of the case. So I'm actually surprised that the EC had a press conference to focus on the Kodeo report, which, in essence, was not even directed at the EC.
Well, if you listened to her, she did say, she tried to indicate that the organization, as the organizer, had run a good event. But Kodeo's criticism seemed to indicate that they did not have an idea of what had happened there. And perhaps that is where she sought to come in and defend their role.
Well, but I think people should stick to the statement. And the statement was very clear that apart from, and we listed incidents. Mm-hmm. And we said, apart from these incidents, reporters reported that the process was smooth. So why would you introduce a different contest into it? Of course, as I said, the electoral commission is an important stakeholder. But the executive, the security apparatus is also an important. Actually, the Election Security Task Force is one of the best innovations that Ghanaians have created in elections in Africa.
But something seemed to have gone off
for
this particular by-election.
And that is why that is where our interest is. Because we take pride in that Election Security Task Force. They've developed it from election to election. So, for example, it's possible that during by-elections we don't activate the Security Task Force because it's a huge infrastructure to set it up, right? So maybe we don't do it and then we just rely on our normal structures. But maybe we should think about it, that there has to be a way in which you sort of activate the Election Security Task Force whenever you have elections so that institutional memory, all of those things are set up properly. But that was our concern. That was our interest. That the elections, and honestly, it was not a competitive election in any way. So it's not like Akwetia or in Treponi or any of those places where somebody or people have a chance of winning and therefore it incentivizes people to be. And it's Accra. It's open. There are so many people who are watching the process. It's very difficult for you to interfere that way. So the factors are not there for you to make it this level of security presence. But as I said, that's a national security matter. But what has happened is that whatever strategy that they put in place, it was a bit counterproductive, and it showed in the turnout. So we should go back to the drawing board, look at the security structures. Certainly, please, we should not have people with masks at polling stations, and I will explain why. Elections are all about transparency. Everybody that's there that have a legitimate obligation to be there and have responsibilities should be identified so that when they commit an offense or disrupt or interrupt the process, they can be held accountable.
The Minister of National Security seemed to disagree with this.
Well, I disagree with him. I mean, I know in instances where masked men, people, when they are trying to follow terrorists or drug dealers in Mexico, a lot of the special forces wear that because they are targeted by the drug dealers. All right, but when you have an open election where people are going through voting and so, because if somebody basically assaults another person and the person's face is covered, how are we going to hold that person accountable? The security apparatus might just, basically not let us know who that person is, and we can never. But if everybody is seeing you, the security person, you're also under scrutiny. But you don't create that kind of environment. You scare people away, and I don't think that is what you want to do. So I mean, as for this mask, it's a no-no. We shouldn't do that again. If we want at night or whatever people are doing, National Security is doing its operations, and he wants people to be masked and all of that, that's fine. But not for elections. All right. And we'll continue to push that particular issue. But we'll have an opportunity to continue to engage with the national security around these issues.
Now, let me come to you, Honorable Ayawaso Namajida. You speak for the government, and we did hear from the president, who also expressed disappointment at some of the incidents that happened there. From the government's side, does it feel like the NPP's reputation as a party that stands for the rule of law and whatnot has been disturbed by the incidents that happened? Because if you listen to the NDC, they do point accusing fingers directly at the party and say, you instigated this.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning to you and my colleagues and to our cherished viewers and listeners. And let me seize this moment to congratulate Madam Lydia Seiram Al-Hassan on her emphatic win in the Ayawaso West Wuogon by-election, and also congratulate members of his team, the generality of our party rank and file, who took a serious view of this election and applied themselves diligently. And we knew that victory was coming her way. And I think that we should congratulate her. She has been through some really difficult moments, having to combine the performance of the funeral of her partner, the late Honorable Member of Parliament, with political campaigns. It was quite difficult, and she has proven that she is a woman of steel. She has determination, and because of the love that she has for the good people of Ayawaso West Wuogon, even in her most difficult moment, she still agreed to sacrifice and to continue the good work that has been started by the late MP. And I think that that lady has to be watched. She has made a bold and emphatic statement. And I disagree with the suggestion that it was a mistake that a woman, albeit a woman in mourning, would seek to enter into parliament. And I've seen several very, very good women in parliament, and I don't hold the view that women parliamentarians or politicians ought to be considered as mistakes, no matter what the circumstance under which they seek to represent their people are. It cannot be. And I think that we have to discourage such narrative from our body politic. On this issue, I think that we need to isolate the issues.
Okay.
And we appear to be convoluting everything and mixing. It's like we are making a gari soakings. We put in the gari, we add sugar, we put the milk, and we add granite, and we have a meal. But in this meal that we are serving, the issues are too sensitive, they are too serious for us to treat like a gari soakings. Let's isolate the issues and deal with them one by one. And that's why I have my disappointment with the Kodio statement, because I believe that they have done that. They have put too many of the issues together. We must begin to deal with the electoral issues and isolate the issue of the violence that was reported.
Okay.
And it is not some instances of violence. It is one reported, recorded incident of violence.
That escalated into other incidents.
No, you mean to say that the multiple beatings that happened, are you counting everybody's beating as an incident of violence? Or I don't understand.
Because if they went to the police station, if they went to the police station and were filing a case, they will not file the case as a group. They will file the case as individuals.
So because 18 people have gone to report that in the incident that happened, they were beating, we now say the 18 violent incidences. I see. My view is that there was one at Baoleshi. The casualties may have been more than one.
That's
in that incident. No, but that is how it is. It's not interesting. That is the only truthful way. I think that any other characterization would rather be the interesting one. Okay. There's one violent incident, but that may produce more than one casualty.
Tell us what you know about that one violent incident.
So now you have rolled me back. I was going to deal with your question and come down, but I think that even this new one is a better way and I've been doing some asking.
Yes.
to understand, even as somebody who speaks for government. So I have spoken to people who were on the ground. I've spoken to officers of state who were in charge, particularly of the security deployments. This is what happened. The electoral security, where security people are stationed at polling stations, is different from when the police or the security gather intelligence that something may happen along the line during the elections, and therefore they want to patrol the area. That is not part of the arrangement of the ballot policing or the police or the security election management mechanism. That is not it.
Franklin,
that is not it. At every polling station, there were clearly identifiable security operatives made up of either the fire service, the immigration, the police, who were permanently stationed at every polling station. There was another team of, I'm told, about between 9 and 11 cars that were patrolling, and so they were not stationed at one particular polling station. My understanding is that the national security intercepted intelligence that something very untoward may have happened. They knew that people had mobilized from various points in the country. They knew that people had mobilized from Tamale, for instance. They knew that people had mobilized from Kumasi.
And they did not do anything about it until they got to Accra.
They could, I mean, if somebody, that's how intelligence works. I mean, you cannot stop somebody from coming to Accra. If the person gets on a bus and is coming to Accra.
But if your intelligence is that this person is coming to Accra to cause X kind of damage, and you are national security, don't you prevent that?
If the national security was able to prevent, they will do it. They have the capacity. But I'm saying that sometimes you follow the lead and you take action as and when you have to take the action. So we must understand that that was different.
Okay.
Now, what really triggered the thing? At the time that, and if you watch the video, you will notice that there were pickups and some other vehicle that people were packed in. They had just arrived. At the time that Mr. Honorable Sam George, the NDC Member of Parliament for Ningo Prampram, arrived at the polling station, he arrived in the company of some motor riders. And so my indication is that the national security operatives who were also stationed at the polling station called for this patrol team to come. And so they got there. When they got there, some chaos had already started moving, but the NDC parliamentary candidate's residence is quite close to that particular polling station. So when they started making noise, they were not going to continue with this election. It's a sham. I mean, all kinds of things. So when this gentleman came, the Honorable Member of Parliament, and at that time, when they convened in the MP's house, the national security people say they reported sporadic shooting. They started shooting. They started shooting.
Till now, there's no indication of how the shooting started and who started.
No. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that they said that the people who arrived on the motor bicycles, who were saying that the election was a sham, they were not going to let it happen, they started the shooting. And so when they got
at their candidate's house?
No, at the polling station. At the polling station, I'm saying to you that the polling station is quite close. If I say at the polling station, I'm not saying that right by a polling booth or at the polling station. It's a big park. And the candidate's house is a stone throw.
Were there any arrests?
There were arrests.
of the people who fired the shots?
Up to now, those matters are under investigation because the national security people who apprehended the suspects were not there at the time. They arrived later because they were called in that this was what was happening.
So those who came in were those in the masks?
Yes, those who came in, some of them were the ones who were in the mask.
Okay.
And what happened. I have an issue with some of the things that I believe were excessive. I have an issue. I mean, with you are arresting somebody, the person clearly is resisting the arrest, and I've seen the video.
Yes.
But the person was clearly overpowered, outnumbered. So you could easily overpower him. Yes, maybe touched 1 or 2 times, but at the point that you notice that the suspect has been tamed and has been disabled effectively, I would have thought that at that point you could manage to escort him into a waiting vehicle and take him to. But I still notice that in some instances, some of our of the security operatives may have gone into an overdrive, an overkill. It was excessive.
But are you not a bit worried? 1 second. Were you not a bit? Is the state not worried that the excesses seem to have come from the squadron that perhaps is supposed to be the most superior trained? Because we've not heard reports of the regular policemen we see engaged in these excesses. In fact, there are reports that some of them themselves were assaulted.
No,
all the excesses seem to have come from this new squadron.
No, that's not correct. I mean, and that's the partisan narrative we are pushing. That's why I'm saying that. Let us forget.
No, we had journalists on the ground, and that is what they reported.
I'm saying that the shooting that were reported, I'm saying to you that we are waiting to get feedback on the shootings. Who actually fired those shots?
My question is not
as we speak now.
My question is not on that.
Nobody has told anybody that it is the people who were in the black T-shirts who fired the shots.
Okay.
For instance, one of the bullets that hit somebody's legs. But as for the physical hitting that I saw, those were done by the national security people. But maybe because they had a certain briefing to deal with a certain threat. Because the regular police who were stationed at the various police stations may not have had the briefing that this counter-terrorism unit that was patrolling had. So their reaction definitely may have been different. Okay. And so that is the point I'm making. Okay. That even at that, I am magnanimous enough to admit that, at a certain point, we can look at this matter and tell the truth that no, this was an excess and so on and so forth. But what for me was also problematic is that you see in the video security personnel who one attempted to provoke, who one attempted to engage. And I am getting greatly worried. In other jurisdictions, if you're driving your car and the siren blows behind you, whether you are overspeeding or not, you pull over. They do not even need to tell you. And when you pull over, the man comes close to you, you roll down your glass and you engage. In our in our country, the trend I see developing is an attitude for people to want to take over. If we do that and we allow for the state security to be disabled in that manner, we put our collective security at risk.
All right, hold that thought for me, Honorable Pius Enamajide. I'll let you continue with your point when we return. We have to go for a break. Sydney has showed up. We are going to have a conversation with Sydney. I have bullfruit for you.
You have?
Yes, it will come. Don't worry. It's a special bullfruit.
Without bullfruit, you can't see the thing. How can it be possible?
Come. Don't worry.
It's invisible force.
You are watching The Big Issue on City TV and listening to us on 97.3 City FM. We'll be right back.
For regular news checks as they unfold, 2020 news all day, all the time. Politics, sports, entertainment, business, and more. 2020 news. We bring you the world in 20 minutes.
Live music, interviews, poetry, and more with your favorite personalities. Be our guest on Saturdays from 2 to 4 p.m. for the most exciting moments on TV. Join Kojo Akoto Boateng for real entertainment right in your living room. Saturday Live on City TV and City 97.3 FM.
You're welcome back to The Big Issue, and let me welcome our TV audience. My name is Godfred Akoto Boafo, and on the show we are at the moment discussing the Ayawaso West Wuogon by-election and the incidents. We do know that the election was won by the MPP, but there were so many other incidents. And before I went on the break, we had the Deputy Minister of Information, Pasena Majide, making a point on how the government sees it, and also explaining to us the narrative of what happened there. Please continue.
And I was condemning... I was just about to finish. And I was condemning the fact that the reaction may have gone out of proportion.
Went out of proportion.
And so on. But we are also not considering the action. The action of a deliberate attempt to attack security forces
Are you saying this officially,
you
or
have seen it.
it's an assumption you're making?
The video is there. You saw the member of parliament for Ningo Pram approaching, pointing fingers at, asking state security operatives, "Are you crazy? What can you do?"
No,
but
he asked him a question. He asked him a question.
That what?
He asked him.
That what?
He asked him whether he was speaking to him
and
whether he was a security official.
No,
I have the video here.
Well, I have the video too, and I'm saying
you
that.
Can hear
let me just
Samuado announcing himself.
Let me just wind up. I'm not going to get into this banter. We have to deal with this one, and that's why I said to you that in a decent democracy, if you wanted to engage with a security operative, there are ways that you can do that, especially for a member of parliament. I went to a polling station that I thought that there was something I had to address with the electoral officer and the police. I went and asked who the presiding officer at that polling center was, and I made my complaint. And I asked, when I saw that the convoy in the morning, I met that team at one of the polling stations. Yes. When I saw them, I didn't know what was happening. I was alarmed myself. I did not shout at them and start pointing fingers to them. I went to one of them. I asked who was in charge, who the commanding officer was. I was shown to somebody. I went and I asked what the situation was and why they were here in these numbers. And he explained that no, they were not going to be here, that they are on a patrol, and that they have intercepted intelligence, and that everything is calm, nobody should be worried. And so we had a discussion. I'm saying that whatever it is, if you are confronted with a situation where you have people who follow you shouting at the security operatives and threatening that we will kill you, we will shoot you. Elsewhere, it's all on the video. It's all on the video.
And the security people did not arrest them.
That's what led to all these excesses.
You finish.
Elsewhere. I am not justifying.
It's sad.
Before you came,
I know
there was a very fine.
Yes, I know. You and I are friends.
I'm saying that, and City, we may have to take some time and tell the full story and play the full video. But I'm saying that on that video, there's a gentleman wearing black long sleeves who came from the residence of the MP, met with Mr. Sam George on the way. They passed each other. Okay, and he was pointing and he was saying he actually did this sign: "We are going to shoot you, we are going to kill you." Who does that? Elsewhere, anything could have happened. And I'm saying that we can condemn the SSs, but we must also condemn the provocation, which may have ended up resulted in all of this. But for me, all of this was, this was bad enough, but the management of it was even worse. When you had an NDC that approached this election in a very lazy manner, they were not committed to the process, they saw defeat staring them in the face. And consistently, if you followed the narrative, this is an NDC that has sought to discredit the EC and to prepare the minds of the people of Ghana that, we lost this election, because they knew they were going to lose anyways. And they were going to lose miserably. So they wanted, how did they start? The NDC participated in a meeting and agreed that the elections was going to be held on the 31st. In fact, they proposed the 31st because the Electoral Commission had proposed the 26th for the conduct of this election, the last day, as it were. Now the NDC thought at that time that they were going to conduct the elections, the presidential primary. I'm building a case.
Violence.
No, it's not about violence, please. Don't determine how I make my case. They sought to create credibility problems for the Electoral Commission. They sought to make excuses for a defeat that was staring them in the face. And so they only sought to take an advantage of something that we have all agreed was avoidable, and the SSs are condemned and they stand condemned. But the NDC is lashing onto that to take undue advantage of it, and they are leading the narrative in a certain manner, and I think that we all cannot allow them to hoodwink us.
I'll get back to you on. I'll get back to you. Hold on.
You want to take over?
No.
Hold on.
Okay.
This is the attitude that will always react.
Honorable, please. Don't provoke Nipapo. Let me come to Franklin and Sydney.
I actually provoke Nipapo.
He stopped, so don't bring him back. He stopped. Now let me come to Franklin and Sydney. Franklin, what did you make of Ayawaso? The Honorable Minister has told us from the state's perspective the information they have as to what led to the situation on the ground. What do you make of Ayawaso West Wuogon?
Well, as a civilized member of society, what indeed happened there, I cannot be proud of, really. Look, there was an election that was to be organized. If all the boxes had been checked, there was actually no need for those hoodlums.
You describe them as hoodlums. The Minister of National Security says they belong
because they were wearing
his outfit.
Did you see their faces? And the enterprise they engaged in was clear barbaric. I don't see why. But at the end of the day, the Kodio statement wouldn't have been issued at all, to the extent that even Kodio is right for the EC to be responding to some aspects of Kodio's statement. You see, what happened is an indictment on the...
Assuming that state operatives... 1 second, this is fine.
He has not made this point yet.
No, I'm saying that... Please. No, don't worry. We are not... I'm saying... Please indulge me 1 second. Just 1 second.
Okay.
I think that some state operatives have come, the national security has come to take responsibility. They said these are state security operatives. I think that at that point, to further describe them as hoodlums is an affront.
Actually, if you had allowed me to continue
we can condemn them.
Your point is
and
made.
Say that they didn't, but to call them hoodlums, even after now that we know that they are national security operatives.
Have they actually said? National security has actually said that these are their people.
That's right.
Yes.
They actually said it.
Yes.
With the masks and everything.
That's right.
They've said that they are their people. They are hoodlums.
They are hoodlums. You see,
because they work for national security, they can't be hoodlums. They are hoodlums.
And you see, we would have had an otherwise.
And they are hoodlums because they wore masks.
They wore masks.
Gentlemen.
And they were dishing slaps.
It's a simple matter.
Gentlemen, it's too early in the show.
To vote.
Let's hear from you.
Look,
you bring people with masks.
Those who signed
police stations in
your
other
point is
places.
made.
Those who signed.
There were no. If we had allowed what was possible to have happened, I'm not sure you'd have been describing
Franklin has indulged
these people as
hoodlums. So let him make his point.
What happened at Talensi? What happened at Ichima? What happened at wherever? They are all hoodlums. It's all wrong.
Let's all agree that Franklin is on the floor and let's hear him.
No. Franklin interferes with everybody's conversation. Franklin, you're on the floor.
Go on.
Actually, the point I was making was...
I will give you an opportunity. I have not taken that opportunity from you.
This was an organized election. Clearly, it was going to be. The EC had checked boxes, probably done their collaboration with the security. I'm sure they did all of that. The police service, we know, clearly were going to handle these matters quietly. Then all of a sudden, something is conjured that some people were on the verge of causing mayhem at the polls. Then you send masked men, paramilitary, these things we saw in Latin America when they are fighting those people. And then all of a sudden, you actually seek to destroy the credibility of the EC. Because as we speak right now, the political party, especially the NDC, is saying, they already have concerns about this EC. Now, it is clear that she's in cahoots with some other person.
She doesn't care.
But that's the point. You see, you've destroyed the integrity of the process by that singular act of sending masked men
to the house of the parliamentary candidate.
I don't even care where they send the thing to. And by the way, to suggest that the elections were not in dispute or were smooth is also another indictment, because the fact of the matter is that if those men were sent to the parliamentary candidate's house, what it meant was that if he was not able to get out to vote, and don't forget he's the parliamentary candidate, to the extent that
shoots in his house,
that actually happened, mar the entire
But
process.
if crime was happening,
let me gentlemen, you can
how do you know?
if crime is happening in a candidate's house?
When a crime is, let me land.
I'm saying
when a crime is
I will give you ample time to speak.
When a crime is committed in someone's house, you don't send hooded persons to the house. Hooded people are like armed robbers.
Let him make his point.
Who sent them?
I told you that the national security has owned responsibility. They have said that these were the operatives. They are the operatives. So if you say that you don't send, who determines?
So everywhere there's a crime being committed, you send hooded people.
I'm saying that.
Anytime there's a crime, you hear that there's a crime being committed somewhere.
That point is well made.
See,
gentlemen, that point is well made.
I'll land shortly. I mean, the point I sought to make, I've made it already.
When you have your MP misbehaving,
sorry, Franklin, what was your point?
People
my
riding
point is that
motorbikes.
And to the extent that that has affected the integrity of an otherwise organized election, it's an indictment. And I feel the security actually disgraced the president as well.
Seriously?
Don't think that. Look, just last week he was in Dagbon doing something very noble. All of a sudden, someone triggers this needless action.
But the president has condemned it.
No, the president has condemned. What I'm trying to say is that those who did that, I like the fact that he's condemned it. But I'm just saying that you don't, just after a week of having a peaceful settlement of a very cancerous whatever in Dagbon, then it's your own people who actually make it look as if all that you did in Dagbon doesn't matter. I think the national security made a terrible mistake. They should own up, and they should own up in a manner that is not to say that, yes, I sent the men. Say, I'm ashamed I sent the men. That's what they should be saying.
All right then.
No,
Sydney,
Franklin,
your point is well made.
Okay, but
if they had come there
because of the addressing,
so they made a mistake because of the way the men
they shouldn't have said those men there.
I'm saying that is to assume. That's Franklin. Do you know the intelligence they have?
Hold on.
What do you mean they shouldn't have sent?
So anywhere crime is being committed, you send to them.
I will give you the question now is how they were dressed, or the whole idea, or the whole idea.
We will do that.
Have you seen any of the persons who you admit that?
What are we complaining about?
Who are identified as NPP chicks and this thing. If you look on social media, thankfully social media
social media is not the basis for doing anything here.
No.
So you hold on. You hold on.
Hold on. They are all members of the house.
I think the national security did not do well.
Because is so upset about
if you will cede your spot,
let him speak.
After
the speaking, we will all speak something. Let
me put a question
by
to you.
By the way, where's the bull fruit? Because
hold on.
The middle is finished.
Let me put a question to you. Your party withdrew.
Yes.
From the process.
Yes.
Legally has no standing though.
No, the point is
you're on the ballot.
The fact that you're on the ballot, the fact that you're on the ballot,
I have pink she's the NDC side. I have pink she's the NDC side.
Please. If they were not worried about it, why were they reacting? The point is this.
We reacted. We didn't
Let's not worry about that part.
In 1992.
I wouldn't worry about that part. They've lost the election.
Listen, in 1992, 1996, we had this unit called the Commandos. One of the biggest protests in elections about the use of the commandos and the fact that they're specialized units and the fact that people affiliated to them were using their uniforms and doing things were the MPP. They kept on making noise, especially the Kubi Preko demonstration, when certain people got shot and they were alleged to have been shot by persons who were not regular police. And the use of irregular and militia units in elections and this were one of the fundamental things that the MPP always complained about. And successively, we got to the point where we had this National Election Task Force where we were putting on armed policemen and SEPs and other security forces in the immediate vicinity of the polling stations. And we'd allow the regular police to be in the background, put together as a unit under the chairmanship of the IGP. And they monitored, so there's a structure. And this structure came about because the MPP were always complaining that there was the use of military and paramilitary units in elections and that these things were not regular. They caused intimidation, among others. Yes, they were the ones who complained. And because of these complaints, we had this improvement.
In 92 and 96.
Today,
in 92 and 96. No, we were under the regime
we have had these improvements because they are the ones who always complain when they are in opposition.
But their complaints are legitimate.
That is why we had the improvement. And that is why we have the National Election Task Force under the chairmanship of the IGP. Specifically done because we want a structure that is accountable.
Yeah. Okay, so what's your point?
And the point is this. On the morning of an election, you put hooded men who cannot be identified in the premises of the parliamentary candidates of the opposition party who is a contestant with the intention of intimidating him. You fire shots in front of his house. There's not been a single, not even one single identifiable person from the NDC side who has been identified as having a gun or has fired any shots in response to what these people did.
We do know that.
There were pellets. There were pellets.
When it is even alleged that the NDC,
the claim from the National Security Minister. The claim from the National Security Minister is that there were shots fired from the house of the parliamentary candidates. Have you identified or arrested one person?
That's what I'm saying. Hold on.
But
the thing that is
you asked the question. Let me provide the response. Then we move on. I'll let you make it, but you asked your question. You see, because it's also our job to inform.
I'm not asking any
question.
Hold
on. You said, has the minister provided, and I'm telling you that per the conversation Bernard Avle had with the minister,
why are you pointing
he
like
said
this?
that 9 persons
yes.
have been arrested. What we can do is to pursue the identities of these individuals.
The people that were arrested were people that were injured. And when our party chairman and Mr. And other members of parliament got to the police station, these people were injured, and so they appealed to the station officer to release them to them so that they could take them to the hospital. They are amongst the people that are in the hospital and are recovering from the injuries that they sustained. Can you, if you have such a cock and bull story that indeed
you cannot say
that you have a story, you have a story.
It's his opinion. It's an English phrase. It's his opinion of the situation that pertains.
You have a story. I've redrawn it. You have a story.
Why?
You have a story. The host doesn't like it. I've redrawn it. You have a story where you are saying
this
that
is a new host too.
The people in the house of the parliamentary candidates committed alleged offences, and you have not been able to arrest one.
But you just said you arrested.
You were not able to arrest one for any alleged offence. You understand? You arrested people in the house. You claim you arrested people in the house who ended up being injured, and because of their injuries, you released them for treatment.
Per the narration you are giving us, he has not given us any indication that anybody has been released.
No problem.
So we
the days are coming. We also demand. Can
I interrogate you for a second?
We also demand.
I don't know where he's taking. I don't know where Liverpool is taking this argument.
The 9 people or the 9 to 18 people that got injured, including those who were shot, we want those people who were masked to be brought for identification parade. So I have insisted that the persons who got injured should make formal police reports.
Okay.
At least that will trigger an investigation.
Yes.
Those people, those people that went ahead or those who got injured have a right to identify those who they think were there. And those who went on the scene were scheduled officers, because at least we know that they had a unit commander. Those people must be brought for identification. I'm also encouraging those who got injured. I'm also encouraging those who got injured to take civil action against the National Security Council.
Absolutely.
Because this kind of impunity cannot be allowed to continue. And you know one interesting thing? This thing about having national security getting operatives and being allowed to have a unit is so illegal.
Why?
Good. The National Security Council is established under the constitutional provision. They have not been given any power to form units, armed units, in order for them to be able to carry out operations.
Very true.
They are supposed to fall on regular police or military where they need to be able to carry out their operations. These hoodlums who have been put in masks, and I'm saying that a number of them have been identified as persons who are identifiable party members of the NPP, including persons who go around with some of the identifiable NPP leaders. If this is the kind of culture that we have tolerated in the past, where we are allowing party party officials to allow them to be able to employ people under the name of national security. This thing must stop.
All right.
It's illegal.
Point well made. Sydney, finally, I come to you. You want to interrogate Nick Akua, so make your point.
I wasn't clear when
I'm very, very angry about it because you know one thing, you'll be working or driving and you might meet some of these hooded people, or you may be in your house and somebody will come in and tell you that I'm national security. I was in court in Amasaman recently. There were 3 cases that were called and there are dockets at the Amasaman Circuit Court. 3 cases. One of them, an alleged national security person, was brought in for kidnapping. 2 of the other cases were involving fraud, where they had gone to say that they were going to sell vehicles to innocent people. These guys are nothing more than hoodlums, and they must be brought to book.
Okay, Sydney.
So no. Sydney,
you
see the very classic example. No. You see the classic example that
you made from the Scott case.
Nipapo just speaks of. Can we therefore, based on this statement that he made, conclude that irrespective of who you may claim you are, if there's an infraction of the law, the systems that we are operating today are able to deal with you? Somebody claims that he's a national security operative, he has gone to dupe somebody. He's facing the law.
My point is
so
this.
Please.
Beyond condemning them,
but the concrete action is what you just described. That three in just your court. What is more concrete? What is more concrete than what you just described?
Those who assaulted the MP on video to book.
I'm saying that what is more concrete?
That gentleman that assaulted the Ningo Pranham MP, he should have been arrested by now.
I'm saying that what is more concrete than what you just described? It tells you that ours is a system that works. And that's why the president has condemned this. If there are,
he should do more than condemn it.
If there has to be implications, there definitely will be implications. But I'm saying to you that if you have an MP, who is it not true that Mr. Sam George came to the polling station with motorbikes of belt men who came to cause confusion at that police station?
Did you have any evidence of him doing that?
I'm saying that.
Don't you have evidence of him being beaten up by a national security?
So the fact that I don't have a video doesn't mean that it means that it didn't happen.
Okay, let's work with what we have. We have evidence of somebody who has beaten up the MP. What have you done about it? He's your colleague MP. What have you done about it?
I'm not an MP. I've not gotten there. But I'm saying that is it not true? He has not answered that question. Please ask him.
But the people who drive the motorbikes.
Have evidence of the person.
Let's not trade the questions back and forth.
But Sydney, that was the whole beginning of the fracas. That was the whole beginning. Because these guys had been in the constituency patrolling quietly, not interrupting in the process, not beating anybody
until in front of the PC's house.
Please, I'm saying to you that before the violation incident, which occurred about 10 o'clock in the morning, these people I met in the morning around 7 at Mimbasem. They had been going on and patrolling quietly without any problem until your member of parliament brought in.
Are we in the war zone?
Gentlemen, let's have some order.
Well, if you,
all right. Gentlemen, let's have some order.
All right.
Thank you very much. Your points are well made.
Okay.
Sydney.
Imagine that.
No. Let's Sydney.
This is Akoto's baptism, and you are making it very, very difficult for him to at least do. But you are doing well.
Thank you.
dipping his head in water. Look, you are losing track of the big issue because I think you are too angry about this, and rightly so. But I'm not sure this is where you should come and vent your anger. The thing is this: you clearly, and because you are representing NDC here, you are clearly saying that the NDC is not responsible for the violence that took place. Fine. It seems to me that you are laying blame at the feet of the MPP because that's government in charge, and the National Security Council is a government arm at the end of the day. Fine.
And the thing is, on the show we are at the moment
the thing is this. The thing is this. Bottom line is, you politicians, okay? You politicians are getting totally out of hand with this election violence thing. There should have been no reason why anybody from the police service or anybody should have been there other than duties assigned to them by the Electoral Commission. And if the Electoral Commission felt that they needed their ballot boxes to be guarded, then they would put some kind of security there in order to ensure that the integrity of the ballots is taken care of. But we've now arrived at a situation where a by-election, which everybody says that it is only a by-election. It is not only a by-election. It's a significant part of our electoral process that somebody vacates a seat, there has to be a replacement. So if we have gone ahead and we have voted, and there seems to have been a win or a loss, not seems to be, but there's a win or a loss. Ayawaso West Wuogon has always been a safe NPP seat, and they retained it. That matter should not escalate into what we are seeing now. I am appalled that the national security should accept that these operatives that we are talking about, these masked hoodlums that were there, sitting in police SWAT cars and patrolling around the place and doing what they did, are actually national security operatives.
They were better equipped.
Far better equipped. And when I look at them, they were in gear that symbolized that they were going to fight ISIS. All right? This was like
This was like the Americans going to kill Al-Qaeda man.
Yes.
Bin Laden.
Yes, and attacking the Honduras trains that are coming with all the gear and the paraphernalia, together with drones and everything, to go and stop an attack from somewhere. Okay? Look, we have embarrassed ourselves as a country. Government has embarrassed itself. The national security people should be ashamed of what they did. If somebody actually gave an instruction that they should go to the opposition MPP candidate's house, and there was shooting taking place there, for what?
For what?
Shooting what?
Shooting
what warning shots are you going to give when there's an election, a by-election where we are going to vote? You are firing warning shots about what? Nobody's trying to steal the ballot box. Nobody's trying to destroy papers. Nobody's trying to create any mayhem. Nobody's fighting anybody.
So in your estimation, you give no credence to the national security, to the national security minister's claim that they had picked up information that they felt was actionable.
He never picked up anything. If you listen to that interview, he made it up during the conversation.
The story of picking up intelligence, and it's just a lie.
So you don't believe him?
He made it up.
Not.
It's a lie.
If you had the backbone with which that interview was conducted, you could tell he was making it up along the way.
That's a bit unfair. That's an unfair comment.
He never told us what he heard.
He's not supposed to say that already.
But we saw the result of what he did.
On that matter, let me just.
Yes, Mr. Sante.
I would think that they did pick up some intelligence and actually deployed much earlier.
Why would you think that?
Let me explain, Sydney. Some of the reports we got was that even at the beginning of the poll process, even before the Electoral Commission has set up, there were national security operatives in some of the polling stations already. So this account about an incident happened later and so on and so forth, I don't buy it. You understand? Because there were reports that in some of those polling stations, even before regular police officers came there were national security operatives already there.
Because they picked up information.
That's what I'm saying, that the only way in which you deploy at that time is because you are preparing or making sure you are going to counter something. So, as for the intelligence,
but what is the work of the police service?
I don't get it.
I don't get it.
The police service.
If national security thinks that some people are coming to steal a ballot box,
cause trouble or whatever,
all right, or cause trouble, and they are stationed there, and they know or they're expecting somebody to come, You wait for the people to come.
Sure.
No, should they even be wearing
that? I mean, for me, that's
we can discuss this.
That's for me. That's
I don't have any problem at all.
Pius, you see, take the argument away from a political stance.
Yes.
All right. Take it away from a political stance. You people find it. Okay. Take it away from a political stance.
Yes.
All right. Who is to blame is not important. In this matter,
no, but we must find the genesis of this problem.
No.
The
only way to get to the genesis of the problem is to do what some of us have done. We have called on the president to set up a commission of inquiry under the commission and under the constitution to look into this event because it is so significant that we cannot afford to allow it to just fizzle. It cannot fizzle.
By significant, what do you mean?
Was the constancy a flashpoint?
I want him to explain.
Ghana has been at the forefront of a peaceful democracy for decades now.
Please let him explain.
Ghana has been there on the forefront of a peaceful democracy for decades. This has been, look at Ghana. What is it exactly that we stand for in the whole society of humanity? What is Ghana all about? Put your cocoa about, put your gold down, put your football where you have got a mixed success. What else have you got?
Hospitality.
All right? What we have is the first black African country south of the Sahara to become independent. We have run on that basis for a long time. But our most recent success story is the fact that we are a peaceful democracy.
Exactly.
People come here because they believe that Ghana is charting a whole new path within this whole milieu of confusion in black African states, and we are getting somewhere. This is the center and the pivot of our progress in this society. So you cannot allow it to derail what we are trying to do. Okay? We have gone away from political conflict and we are looking at economic and development success. This, all right, just creates a complete blur in what we are trying to do. So you need to get rid of it and get rid of it in such a way that people will sit up and see that, oh, this country is seriously committed to doing things properly and democratically.
But
it's important.
I agree with you. The way to do that is to look on both sides of the coin.
It's to take away
I'm saying that.
No, the way to
agree with you.
The way to do it
is to stop harming party.
The way to do it. The way to do it is not the way Nikwaku is trying to do it. This election took place on Thursday. All right. Since then, we've had the violence disseminated in the media. Yesterday was Friday. There have been calls for commissions of inquiry. It's been only 2 days. You need to allow time for things to be done. All right? Just because there was there was violence on Thursday doesn't mean the president should be announcing on Friday, I'm setting up a commission of inquiry on Friday.
Oh, he's even said
all right,
they'll deal with the culprits. So
he said he would deal with it. And that's as much as he could have done within the time frame. Within the time frame. Yes. Now, if we allow another 2 or 3 or 4 days and nothing happens, then we can do what Nikwaku is doing and call for something to be done urgently or else.
I am totally with you.
Yes,
we can
let you make it.
So the whole issue is that we have to be aware of how important and how big this issue is within our society and within the world at large. It is very, very significant, Akoto, and very important that we should
can we define the issue? How big this issue is? What is the issue? The issue is not restricted to did people wear masks and so on and so forth. Did they beat people? The issue must also include that is it correct that the NDC member of parliament came to the polling center with a group of people who were also engaged in acts that's not
intimidated. They were armed.
That's not be part of the issue.
I think the point is
that should not be part of the issue.
Should we allow
we should have waited. We should have waited to have found out if they had guns.
Oh, please.
They should have killed people first.
You're taking us back. You're taking us back. You're taking us back. To the NPP NDC thing.
And it is the name of national security be hooded and be allowed to take part.
These are points
that must also be part of the issue.
It should not be allowed.
Gentlemen, let's move the conversation. I'm moving the conversation forward.
I agree with Paco that should be part of the issue. But why is Paco disagreeing that what I'm saying should be part of the issue?
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
So agree.
No, listen, it
has to be under a commission.
The agent provocateurs that MPs that
everything has to come into consideration. It has to be part of a commission of inquiry.
Exactly.
It has to be so important that it must not have parliamentary interference.
Yes.
It must not be partisan. It must be presidential, and it must escalate to a point where the whole country must make it clear to the politicians, all right, that winning an election is not the be end and end all of everything in this world. Okay? It is too much of it. It is too much of it, and it is ruining our society because every time we have to have an election now, people are going to start getting worried that there's going to be violence.
Exactly.
I thought that after 2016 we would be out of it.
Irresponsible
All right, then you are listening and watching. Gentlemen, I'm going on a commercial break. Keep watching The Big Issue. We'll be right back.
Witness the twisted and tangled story of betrayal, greed, vengeance, and love in the award-winning Brazil Avenue. Carminia, a woman led by greed, gets rid of her husband, who is Rita's father, and sends Rita away to a filthy landfill. Rita finds love in Batata, but they are soon separated by adoption into different families, far away from each other. Many years later, all paths cross again, as Rita, now a renowned chef, seeks to pay back her stepmother for taking away her happiness as a child. It's the story of twists, turns, suspense, and thrilling action in Brazil Avenue. Brazil Avenue airs Wednesdays to Fridays from 10 to 11 p.m. only on City TV. Cosmopolitan, new experiences, social media, blazing conversations, fashion, life hacks, all of this and more. This is Ourscape. This is Yourscape. Join Abioko Ashon Abe and Emma Fachikata on Cityscape right here on CTTV every Saturday at 4 p.m.
Welcome back to The Big Issue. And for those of you who want to send us comments, you can send me a comment on Twitter on @esportsman or on 97.3 City FM on our Twitter handle or on Facebook. For those who are watching us live, yes, we are live on Facebook. We are live across a lot of digital channels. You can also leave your comments. I'll be reading a couple of the comments. In fact, I've been receiving a lot of messages on this conversation. And we'll be conducting an interview as well with an interested party very soon. My producer is working on that. Don't forget that also later on in the show, we'll be discussing the visa restrictions that have been imposed on Ghana by the United States of America. So a lot more going on the big issue. Now, let me come to you, Mr. Asante. Going forward, Sydney has made a point. He said this is significant based on where Ghana has come from and where we are now and what we mean, what our democracy means to the rest of the world. And so going forward, we have an election coming up. One thing that struck me was when the Director General of Police Operations was interviewed on the ground, and he said, I am not aware of some of these things. Sure. Now, one would expect that of all the people not to be informed about any form of intelligence or any form of operation, he would be the last person not to know. How do we improve this going forward?
Well, I think it's even more significant, and I'll add another, to what Sydney has said, is that how we are going to deal with vigilantism in 2020 when you're not just talking about mobilization in one parliamentary candidate's office, but across the country. Because the reality is that we have moved from Akwatia, Cherponi, Talensi, and so on, where you had maybe Azoko boys and, some other groups, one or two, to where now you have branches. All right. And you have a lot of young people unemployed who see the benefits of, these kinds of mobilization. They follow an MP, an individual. They get, some monthly remittances and other kinds of opportunities. If there's a change in government, you might get some employment and so on.
Okay, Mr. Sansi, just hold on for me. I'll let you make your point. We've been joined by the Member of Parliament for Ningo Prampram, Sam George. He's on the phone line. And he wants to react to some points that were made by the Deputy Minister of Information, Pius Ajide, regarding him leading some individuals on a motorbike. So, Honorable Sam George, good morning and welcome to The Big Issue.
Good morning, Godfrey.
Thank you for joining us. You said you wanted to make some clarifications. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I have been called in and later recalled about comments made by the Deputy Minister for Information, Pius Ajide, and it appears that this is the new line of communication from the ruling government. Let me state without equivocation, he ought to tell the people the truth. At no point in time did I move with even a driver on the day of the election. I drove myself. I was alone. Not to talk of moving with 15 motorbikes. That's a lie from the pit of hell, and I expect better of a government that is paid with our taxes. This lie was put out first and foremost by Mr. Brian Achampon, Minister of State in charge of National Security, in his interview with Benadabla yesterday. I am on record to have called Mr. Brian Achampon and challenged him, and he denied making such comments on your station. You can talk to Bernard about it. I called Bernard and raised the issue with him. I arrived at the polling station alone, driving alone. When I arrived at the Labawaleshi polling station,
ask him whether
there was a vehicle that was following me. That vehicle belonged to the Deputy National Women Organizer of the NDC, Mami Efua. The so-called national security operatives claimed they were arresting her because she had taken a picture. That was the first time I got out of my car at that center and engaged the police officer who was part of that team. Is by name DSP Azuku. City TV had reporters there. You had TV camera there. You can ask your reporters who are the Labawaleshi if they saw me arrive there with any motorbike. This is wrong. If this government has been complicit in the assault of a sitting member of parliament and they cannot even out over 48 hours after, they cannot identify the hoodlums who carried out who perpetrated this act, they should not seek to denigrate me. And I'm serving notice. If that statement is not retracted and an apology rendered, I will be suing the Deputy Minister for Information. Because he will have to show evidence and proof that I arrived there with those people. You cannot run down my integrity that way. You have no evidence, no proof whatsoever, and as a Deputy Minister for Information, we deserve better from you and your government.
Now, Honorable Sam George, I have a question. A lot of people have seen that now viral video of you and that encounter with certain persons. What was the circumstances that led to you being there and the exchange that took place after? It was not in isolation that you were speaking at the top of your voice. How did you get there? What were you upset about?
Godfrey, I was there as an election monitor for the NDC, duly accredited by the Electoral Commission. In fact, the reasons why I was going around that morning was that I was coordinating a team of MPs who were acting as election monitors for the NDC. I had started giving, and I had all the accreditations with me, and I had started giving the accreditations. At 6:45 a.m., I started in Legon campus in front of a Kwafo Hall. I met with Honorable Oko Vanderpoy, Honorable Linda Oklu, and Honorable Francis Dakura. and gave them their accreditation. From there, I proceeded to other polling stations within the Legon campus. From there, I proceeded to the Opongo traffic light polling station before I got to the Labawaleshi polling station. When I got to the Labawaleshi polling station, Amiefa was behind me, and that's when the issue of arresting her because she had taken a picture of them. Okay, we resolved that issue. I got down, went and spoke to the presiding officer of the polling station there, and spoke to the NDC agents there as an election monitor. Whilst I was doing that, I realized that some of these forces or those so-called national security men were running behind the polling station building. And so I followed up to see what it was that had attracted over 40 or 50 of the men heavily armed running there. Only for me to realize that that was the house of the NDC candidate, Kwesi Brempong. When I got there, I realized that they were trying to force their way into the premises. And then I asked them, on what basis are you seeking to enter the private residence of the NDC candidate?
Judge, who did you ask? Did you find out, Honorable, whom did you make this inquiry of?
Sorry?
Can you identify the person you asked?
Oh, the gentleman I asked appeared to have been leading them because most of the guys were carrying 9mm pistols. He was carrying an AK-47. I know him to be called Double. That is the name by which he's known in the circles.
Double.
He's called Double. He's an associate of the NPP national organizer, Samuel Wuku.
And you are stating this on record that this is the gentleman you met.
So this is not somebody who we don't know. He's called Double. You understand? That's how we all call him. His official name I do not know, but I know him as Double. I engaged him and spoke to him. And based on our engagement, he agreed that they were going to pull back and I should ask the security of Mr. Brempong to also stay within the confines of his building. That was an agreement we had. In the course of that, there were exchanges, and then they started firing. They fired for 5 minutes, after which calm prevailed, and he said that they had seized the keys of one of his men had seized the keys of one of the security personnel.
Honorable Sam George.
Go back to the park with them. Yes.
Yes. If you can slow down for me, so I ask you a couple of questions. There were exchanges. You were an eyewitness to these exchanges.
I was present when they were shooting. Yes.
So can you tell us how the shooting started? Who shot at who? What necessitated the firing of guns? Since you were there, if you can explain to us.
What happened was very simple. This so-called national security operative said they were going to enter into Kwesi Brempong's house. The security at Kwesi Brempong's house refused them entry.
Were they also armed?
In fisticuffs.
Were they also armed? Were the security men at Mr. Kwesi Brempong's house also armed?
No.
Okay.
At no point in time did any of them have a show or display or fire a weapon. At no point in time. And I'm going to be very frank with you and true to the fact. What I saw was during the fisticuffs, stones were thrown. Stones began to be thrown. And that is when they responded with guns, with bullets. This is what I saw. I was there. I won't lie about it. Stones were thrown, and this team responded with bullets. Because the team that had the national security were trying to force their way into the private residence of this other gentleman, of the NDC candidate. So it was after the escalation of all of that, and the understanding that I should walk back with them to pick up the key. On our way back, we walked through somebody's house. Because, it's like a Zongo, that area was like a Zongo area. Their house was not walled. And walking through that premises, we encountered a gentleman. And he was asked to go back. He was startled. 40 heavily armed people. He was startled and he was trying to ask questions. The next thing, he was hit to the ground. And then they started assaulting him on the ground. About 5 people were beating him on the ground. And I spoke to the leader of the team and said, stop what is going on. It is wrong. And then I saw them take cement blocks and smash the man's head while he was on the ground. He started bleeding from his eyes, his nose, and his mouth. And he became unresponsive. Even when we were pushing him, he was unresponsive. And when I complained to the leader of the team, he told me to shut up because it was not my business. I said to him, I cannot keep quiet as a lawyer and see this go on and not talk about it.
Okay.
And he told me that I'm aware of what is called bullet. That is what I was asked.
May I ask you?
All right.
Because when I their vehicle, and I got to their vehicle. That was when I kept repeating to them that you cannot kill a man in his own house. Because of what I had just said. You cannot kill a man in his own house.
All right, then.
And I was walking away, and then one of the security men mentioned me by name, Sam George, and spoke in literal translation, you think you are a stubborn cat. You will be dealt with every time you keep attacking President Akufo-Addo. So I turned around and said, I will be dealt with. What can you do? So you realize on the video, I was walking away and I turned around. I turned around and asked him, what will you do to me? Are you a security operative or are you an MPP officer in security clothing? What has President Akufo-Addo got to do with the by-election? Then he responded and said to me, this is the 2020. It's all audible on the video clip that has been aired severally on TV. And then from there, I got jumped. About 2 to 3 people started attacking, and then you saw the whole mob running after me. And that is when the security people tried to come to my rescue. They again started firing guns at them.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Honorable Sam George. You've made your points, your clarifications have been well made.
I would crave your indulgence to once again urge the Deputy Minister for Information to retract those unfounded claims except he has evidence of it.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Honorable Sam George. Your point is well made. So you heard Sam George, the Member of Parliament for Nigo Pram. Honorable Payasana Machide, he says that you either retract the statement you made or you face him in court.
I urge my good brother and friend Sam George to also refrain from peddling falsehood. It's becoming one too many. And he always wants to play with words. And created an impression today on this show with this telephone call that the Minister for National Security, or the Minister responsible for National Security, Mr. Brian Champon, retracted a comment and apologized publicly. That's the impression that he sought to create.
He said to him.
That's not correct. How are you asking us to speak to Bernard to corroborate a chat you had privately with another?
Well, that's something we can easily do with another time.
That's how he does it.
Are you sticking with your story?
I'm saying that I am reporting what has been made public already on your network.
So you are sticking with your story?
I'm saying that if Sam George has any issues, Sam George should go to the source of the story. And I'm reporting that story. I believe my source is coming from no less a person than the minister responsible for national security. And so I think that, of course, honestly, this is the man who says that somebody has been killed in his own house. It's turned out to be a falsehood. This is the same man who says that he was shot at severally.
It's okay. Let's not go back and forth on this. So you are sticking with your story, no problem. Mr. Asante, let's come back to you. Finish
that point. The narrative around mobilizing, getting vigilantes and so on to protect parties and protect individuals is one that is sourced from the failure of police to investigate brutalities that are meted out to opposition people. This is a narrative that has started from Akwetia, it went through Treponi, Agbogloshi, and every party, when you are in opposition, you build this narrative that because of that we are also mobilizing. If we're going to put a stop to this, something like what CD is talking about, a commission of inquiry, that deals substantively with this, whoever is responsible, held responsible, and ensure that you have a system that everybody can feel safe. In 2016, when the police hierarchy decided that they were going to assign police officers and so on and so forth, and you saw at the end, we were able to maintain the peace because we knew exactly what the procedure was going to be on election day. You couldn't be going around patrolling. You couldn't be... All of those processes are important during an election. And that's why, for me, I think it's important that the police have to establish its credibility going forward. And every time you have a case like this, you have to deal with it and ensure that, the chips fall where it has to fall. Otherwise, you won't build trust in the system. So it's important. It's even more important going to stem this type of vigilantism. Otherwise, by 2020,
everybody will be armed.
As Kofi Boakye keeps telling you,
he keeps saying it.
They just add in more and more. And you have incidents like this, then if you have the presidential, the aspirant to the flag bearership of the NDC already saying, we will meet you boot for boot, at that highest level, you're already encouraging people that they can start mobilizing.
Yeah, but it's
very important.
Yeah, but it's not only that.
We stem the tide.
It's not only that, and I think that it goes rather far than all this. You see, when you come to a discussion program like this, you have important panelists who have left what they have to do on a Saturday morning. We come and talk about issues like this. There is a very, very subtle contracted arrangement that when you come, at least there will be bull fruits and Milo.
Yes.
I knew it was coming.
Yes.
And you are reassured that the bull fruit is here. Don't worry, you will be coming.
You have not eaten
you haven't had breakfast.
Yes.
And you are constantly being told that the bull fruit is in the microwave.
Yes.
This can lead to political agitation.
Yeah, it has taken
slaps.
I like that analogy.
Since 9 o'clock, we've been waiting for bull fruit. It's now 12 o'clock. There is no bull fruit.
When I announced that,
I would advise that
and
you don't comment.
I have every right. I have every right to turn the table upside down and destroy the television coverage.
Fortunately for me, I have CDD here. I've covered.
Yeah, so we've taken a vote of no confidence in the host.
But very important point.
I mean, apart from that point, solid point you made.
Are you solving the bull fruit?
We should solve the bull fruit. I think that there's no doubt that nobody is happy about this unfortunate development.
So why don't you
let me finish. It's not. I'm saying that
you talk a lot, but you don't do anything. The political parties have a responsibility.
You are not taking time to again. Let's isolate this issue. This is not a strict case of the party vigilante case as we know it.
It is.
Then in that case, then you for me. If I may finish, please, honorable. If I may finish, I think that this way for me is even better. Look, if we allow this to become another political chess game of MPP group versus NDC group, we are not making any progress. If state operatives, they claim that they are security
operatives, the national security keeping.
I'm saying that even assuming they were the police, assuming please, let me finish.
It is
endure for the sake of our audience.
I'm saying that for the sake of argument.
Endure for the sake of our audience. Endure it.
Like, this is my argument. So if the police properly recruited, trained, if the police had engaged in this matter, it would not have been any better. We would still have condemned it. So that's the context. I'm saying that if somebody who is supposed to be operating in the name of the state, that makes it for me even much more. If I may just finish.
Let me just, so that I don't want you to sort of extend this. I think you missed my point.
No, it's not. I'm not responding to your point. I'm moving on. How do we go forward from here?
Disband that national security.
I'm saying that. I'm saying that.
It's an illegal unit.
I'm saying that.
It's a vigilante group.
Well, I'm saying that.
Commission.
If they have done things that are unprofessional, we must be told what measures there are that deal with such misbehaviors.
One of them is to disband the group.
We must be told so. And if you see these processes unfolding, because you cannot tell me that if there's a police unit that some police officers have misbehaved, because of that we should disband the police force because a few of them have misbehaved. I will not accept that. What I will accept is that we get assurances that there are systems inbuilt that can deal with some of the excesses that we have.
It's an illegal unit.
All right, then.
That unit is an illegal unit.
Point well made.
The National Security Council has not been given any mandate.
Then for the longest of time, we have been engaging in illegality. And you just noticed, with all your lawyer, with all your pedigree, you just remembered your law after several years of superintending national security operatives. You have now discovered your law.
Gentlemen,
you have now discovered your law.
I am moving the conversation on to why very soon Honorable Piles and Ajide might not be able to go to the US. That is where I am going. Now, a lot more categories of Ghanaians could face U.S. visa restrictions if the government of Ghana fails to meet its obligation regarding the issuance of travel documents to Ghanaians awaiting deportation from the USA. Now, the United States earlier announced that beginning February 4, which is Monday, its embassy in Accra will discontinue issuing will discontinue issuing all non-immigrant visas to domestic employees of Ghanaian diplomats posted in the US. And there is also one restriction that affects members of parliament and the executive, which is where Pius comes in.
Messages from listeners.
Yes, I will. At a press conference in Accra, the embassy updated and clarified the restrictions to Ghanaians.
The press briefing sought to clarify some pertinent issues on the visa sanction and also update Ghanaians on the progress made with ongoing negotiations. The U.S. ambassador to Ghana, who addressed the press, emphasized the types of visas that were in contention.
Yesterday, I met with Foreign Affairs Minister Shirley Ayawaso to discuss the outstanding matter of Ghanaian nationals subject to final orders of removal from the United States. As you all may know, this issue appears in public discourse and is often a highly contentious and emotionally charged subject. It is an issue that the United States has been working on bilaterally with many countries around the world for several years. If I may, I would like to take a moment to clarify the issue at hand. For more than 2 years, including as far back as July 2016, the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of State have been working with the Ghana Embassy in Washington and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration here in Accra for Ghana to issue travel documents, such as passports, within 30 days to Ghanaian citizens who are subject to deportation orders. The government of Ghana has consistently not met in a timely way this internationally mandated standard of the UN Convention on International Civil Aviation, to which Ghana is a party. Timely issuance of these passports helps facilitate deportees' departure on commercial flights. When Ghana or another country does not issue the passports in a timely way, the United States government has to employ charter flights for some of these deportations, and in some cases is required under our law to release those under final order of removal within the United States.
It has been over 3 years since the U.S. government began negotiations with its Ghanaian counterparts on the deportation of some 7,000 Ghanaians. It seems the two failed to reach an agreement, hence the action by the U.S. government. Madame Sullivan says, though negotiations are ongoing, Ghana risks further sanctions.
Effective Monday, February 4th, we will pause issuance of all new visas for domestic employees of Ghanaian diplomats posted in the United States. In addition, we are limiting the normal 5-year validity for tourist and business visas for all Ghanaian executive and legislative branch employees, their spouses, and children under age 21 to single entry visas valid for just 1 month. Also, Ghanaians who hold diplomatic and official passports face these same restrictions for tourist and business visas, even if they are not government employees. And let me make a distinction. The validity of a visa is not the same as duration of stay allowable. As long as a U.S. visa holder enters the United States prior to the 1-month visa expiration date, the allowable duration of stay is not affected. Current visa holders are not affected at this time. Student visa applicants are not currently affected. Ghanaian government officials traveling for official duty are not currently affected. Participants in official U.S. government exchange programs are not affected. We hope to work closely together with Ghanaian authorities to resolve this issue promptly. The U.S. government will lift these limitations when the Ghanaian consulates in the United States issue the required passports and demonstrate they can consistently provide timely issuance of these travel documents for these citizens going forward. If there is not progress in meeting these obligations in the coming months, the U.S. government could expand measures to include additional categories of people and or discontinue additional types of visas. Let me assure you, both we and the government of Ghana are eager to resolve this situation that has spanned two administrations, both in Accra and in Washington.
Nonetheless, the U.S. government says it is working closely with the Ghanaian government to find a lasting solution to the situation. I am Kojo Ajman reporting for City News.
So you heard the U.S. Ambassador, Madam Stephanie Sullivan there. Now, the government of Ghana has responded through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration via a press release. It's a lengthy one, but I must read it so that we get perspective on Ghana's response to this. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration notes with concern and disappointment the decision of the United States authorities to implement visa sanctions on Ghana for alleged lack of adequate cooperation in accepting Ghanaian nationals who have been ordered removed from the United States. The ministry wishes to state that it has always cooperated with the U.S. authorities in the processing and removal of Ghanaian citizens